To answer that question, every time I show a slide that as a chest surgeon, I'm privy to seeing lungs of my patients, and I started this in 1988. So now I have nearly 35 years experience of seeing Indian lungs, almost 2 to 3 every day, 6 days a week. Lungs are pristine pink when we are born. But over the years, I have seen a change in the color of lungs. From the pristine pink, now there is a situation where I hardly ever see a pristine pink lung, even in teenagers. Even in teenagers, I see black deposits on the surface of the lungs. And that's what got me interested in this, that my God, this is a silent damage happening inside the body. No one is aware. And that's when I started going into depth of it, and I realized that the particulate matter and the gases enter through the lungs. The portal of entry is lungs, but it doesn't remain within the lung only. From the lungs, it gets absorbed, goes to the blood, and from head to toe, there is no organ in the body. Yes, I repeat, ladies and gentlemen, from head to toe, there is no organ in the body which is spared the ill effects of air pollution. We all think that it all starts with breathing, but the facts now, science says that it actually starts even before we are born. When a pregnant mother breathes in a polluted city, the toxins get absorbed through her lungs, go to the blood, and through the placenta, they go to the fetus, and they start causing everything from congenital defects to growth retardation, intrauterine death, premature death, and so on and so forth. And when the child is born, and when he or she takes the first breath of his or her life, it's not some artificial air. The child breathes the same air which is in the city. And if your city PM 2.5 is 300, 250, 400, as is the case with many cities in our country, it's equal to about 15 to 20 cigarettes a day. So I dare say that in a polluted city, the newborns become smokers. You start smoking from the first breath of your life, and this continues till the time you breathe. And this damage is not confined to just lungs, cardiovascular system, neurological system, reproductive system. You name a system in the body and it is affected. And now there is evidence to say that even diabetes and obesity are because of what you breathe and not because of what you eat. There is evidence to say, there is evidence from Europe to say that breast cancer is being caused by it. And we breathe 25,000 times a day, and therefore we are inhaling this toxin all the time. So I would summarize all this health data that I have been witness to and painfully slow in the last 35 years of my career as a surgeon to say that in a polluted city, wherever it is on the planet, breathing kills. That's number one point. Number two, the second other aspect of air pollution is the climate crisis, which is hurting the planet as well as the people. So air pollution, climate crisis together are hurting the health of the people and the health of the planet. So I see, as a doctor, I see it as the biggest existential crisis for the people and the planet. And something has got to be done. We know the answer that all this is coming from unrestricted use of fossil fuels, whether it is coal, oil, or gas. It is the unrestricted use which has led us to this situation. And the answer is very simple, that lock, stock, and barrel, we have to shift to cleaner sources of energy. Now that's easier said than done. We know the answers, however, sometimes even the obvious needs to be stated and stated loudly. And therefore, people need to be made aware that air pollution, climate crisis are not environmental or chemical issues. These are pure health issues related to health of the present generation and, more importantly, the future generation. And if we love our future generation, there's no way that we can let this situation continue like this. We've got to do something about it. Now, what do? First thing to address any issue is to make people aware. aware of the problem, aware of the enormity of the problem, and aware of the fact that if you don't do what you ought to do, the consequences are grievous, dangerous, life-threatening, existential threat. So therefore, in our foundation, we follow a AAA strategy, which is awareness. We feel that everyone needs to be shown that picture of pink lung and black lung. Every human being should see what's happening inside his body. That's what will awaken him. So awareness will lead to awakening. And when you are awakened to this danger facing you, I think you will be two things. One, you will yourself be willing to do the actions which you need to do as people. And more importantly, when the governments and policymakers take decisions, you would be more willing to accept it. So therefore, to my mind, awareness is the first step towards that. And when it's an issue of making somebody aware about a health issue, who can be a better person than a doctor? Why am I here? Why did I leave my OR and come here? Because I'm pained by what I see. So we see the ill effects of air pollution firsthand in our clinics, so we are motivated to work in this space. And when we talk to people about this being a health issue, they listen to us. So we are better motivators. So I say health community is a motivated motivator, and therefore I am here to request the health community across the globe that it's time for all of us to rise. And apart from treating patients, I think it's our bounden duty to start making people aware about this danger and request for actions. We know what the actions are, but we need to tell people to act today, act fast. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for those succinct and rather daunting words about the situation in India. And I know you're a heartfelt advocate, so more power to you in your work. Now I wanted to move on to Madam Al Abdouli from the United Arab Emirates. She's the Acting Assistant Under-Secretary for Green Development and Climate Change for the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment of the United Arab Emirates. Quite a long title. I'm sure that struggled to fit all of that on a business card. But I think most importantly, she's responsible for developing national strategies and coordinating the implementation of programs for environmental awareness and air quality across the country. Now, Madam Al Abdouli, we're all here in the UAE. We can see what the air quality reports are. We can see there's lots of cars on the road. It's a very vehicle-heavy country. We know also that there's a lot of background pollution in the UAE, dust, sand, seaborne. So what are the challenges that you in the UAE face to get air pollution down, and how are you going about it?
Well, first of all, good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and I'm really pleased to be with all of you today here on this panel to discuss a very important issue, and I really congratulate you, Dr. Avant, for all of the efforts that you are doing. And just let me start first by correcting something regarding my title, as I'm now focusing more in my role on green development and environmental affairs. So I am the director for the green development and environmental affairs, and not the acting assistant under secretary. That was like sometime long ago. So just a small correction. So when we speak about air pollution here in UAE, we consider it one of our major threatening to the environment, and not to the environment only, but to the people who are living in this country. That was actually the motivation for us to go and to develop a comprehensive and holistic approach for addressing this matter. And that was in developing our national agenda, because all the time we believe in that, and we believe that this is an environmental threat, and we transfer it to be on the top of priority of our governmental agenda. So you will see that in the top priority of all of our agendas, strategies, and policies as well. So when we came to develop the national agenda for air quality here in UAE, we had worked in a very holistic approach with all of the relevant stakeholders, because we do believe that This agenda is not addressing only air pollution. And when we speak about air pollution or the policies for air pollution, we shouldn't look at it only from the level of pollutants. We have to think about it in a way, in a more holistic way, that this should tackle actually the impact on climate, on health, on population, on education, on energy, and all of the other relevant sectors. So that is one of the major, I would say, key learning that we came to know and to learn through our process in developing that agenda. A second point that I would like to highlight is that achieving that agenda by itself was actually a milestone, because so far until 2022, when we had announced our agenda, we didn't actually have one document in its all that will include the strategic directions for air quality management in UAE. So we had developed that agenda, and during the process of actually developing the agenda and every step of it, it was a learning experience for us. And the most important thing happened during that time, that we developed it during a very difficult time and I would say challenging circumstances. We developed that agenda during the COVID-19 pandemic, where everyone was like just working from home. But what we found actually very encouraging is the commitment and dedication of our partners and stakeholders to be engaging with us in developing that agenda. So that is one of the most, I would say, key learning that we had learned during the process. Another one, or the third one, that I would say it's really to highlight it in this session, is that managing the air quality requires a coordinated action. So when I say a coordinated action, that should be across all of the relevant stakeholders. So we cannot just think that managing air quality portfolio will be a responsibility of one department in the environmental authority. That is not right. We have to think about it from a multi-stakeholder approach that will include stakeholders from the energy sector and from the health sector and from the education sector, from waste, from industry, from agriculture, from all of the relevant sectors that have actually a part related to the air quality management. We do believe that there are different approaches for managing air quality. There are different approaches to actually assess the air pollution and different mechanisms to govern the work that is happening in different parts of the world. But we do believe that here, alhamdulillah, that we managed to have the agenda in place, and that agenda is supported with a clear implementation plan. A roles and responsibility matrix was developed, and it has been already shared and agreed with all of the relevant stakeholders. And there is actually an annual reporting and, let's say, a kind of a stock take of what's happening in this agenda every year, and that's happening on 7th of September, which is the Clean Air Day. So that is like a small, in summary, what we had developed so far with regard to the national agenda of air quality here in UAE.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So very interesting. Hearing the importance of having, a strong integrated plan, a strong agenda that will then pave the way for good implementation. Really encouraging to hear that. Now I'd like to introduce Her Excellency, Madam Samira Bawumia. Madam Bawumia is a Ghanaian politician and the Second Lady of the Republic of Ghana. She's also a Global Ambassador for the Clean Cooking Alliance, as well as the Global Champion for Health and Energy Platform for Action of the World Health Organization. And she is also a champion for action on air pollution in Africa with us as well, a part of the clean air movement. So welcome, Madam Bawumia. I think from having visited Ghana, it's fairly clear that the sources of air pollution there are a bit different from other parts of the world. So obviously, needing an approach that's locally appropriate. But I got the sense that the issue is beginning to come up the agenda for Ghana, for the Ghanaian citizens. So I'd really like to hear your views on what the challenges are in Ghana around outdoor air pollution, and what you think the country can do to address that.
Thanks, Sean. So let me start by thanking you all, and Dr. Kumar, your impassioned delivery, really reminding us that it's not just about the lungs, it's the whole body, and it has to be a holistic approach, as you said. So Accra is one of the fastest growing cities in Africa, and we have more than 4 million people living in Accra. And there's a daily influx of about 2.5 million people into the business communities, business centers. And our population is estimated to grow to up to 9.6 million by 2050. So what does that mean? It means that people will be commuting back and forth, which is one of the major causes of pollution, air pollution. For us, when you look at, even now we have inadequate public transport infrastructure, our industry, estates, waste burning is one of the major issues of sources of air pollution. And our annual average PM2.5 concentration in Ghana, as of 2019, was 11 times higher than the WHO recommended concentration levels. So it means that without swift action, we're in trouble. Almost half of these PM2.5 concentrations are attributed to transport, which takes about 39%, which is also linked to the infrastructure around it, because it's not clean transportation that we have. And 70% of our daily commuters use their privately run minibuses. We call them trotros in Ghana, and which are usually old and very high emitting vehicles. So the question is, what do we do about it? Because we know that without swift action, we're going to be in trouble. So we have a few initiatives that we're doing. The Urban Mobility and Accessibility Project, which aims at improving public transport services and urban mobility through better regulation. This includes definitely those trotros we're talking about, and expanding our metro and public bus fleets and networks so that we can reduce CO2 emissions in the country. There's also recently in our latest budget, there's a policy initiative to waive import duty on electric vehicles, and also a policy to initiate a tax industrial and vehicular emissions incentive, which applies to the polluters pays principles. So that's also come up in our latest budget. Accra is also the first African city to join the Breathe Life campaign. And we've used Dare Best, which is like festival gatherings, as a platform to improve awareness on the importance of switching to clean cook stoves. Of course, as an ambassador for clean cooking, for me it comes back down to that, especially in Africa, where we know the source of a lot of our pollution is from unclean cooking. Ghana is also, but we've published a national action plan to mitigate these short-lived climate pollutants, and this identifies measures that both improve our air quality and help mitigate against climate measures. And we're also the first country in 2022 to include air pollution in the form of black carbon in its national greenhouse gas inventory, which we submitted to the UNFCCC. So we know what our challenges are, but the good news is that we are awake to it, and we're working towards relieving it.
Thank you, Madam Bawumia, and sounds like there's kind of active set of policy that you are implementing and seeking to implement. And we are particularly pleased that Ghana has agreed to be the host of the upcoming WHO Air Quality Conference
Yes.
in this October.
Yes.
Which I think is a great move.
Next October, yes, we're excited about it, and yeah.
Yeah, so I think, and this is the first conference that the WHO has put on since 2018, and is a real indication that we've managed to get this issue taken much more seriously as part of the climate and health issue. So thank you very much, Madam Bawumia. I'd like to turn now to Mr. Lu Jin. Mr. Lu Jin is currently works for the Energy Foundation China, but he used to work for the Beijing municipality, And he's down here as the Deputy Director of the Regional Air Quality Management Division at Beijing Municipal Environmental Protection Bureau. But I think the key point there is that he developed and implemented many key policies while he was there, including the air quality improvement plans for the Beijing 2008 Summer Olympic Games, where Beijing enjoyed a window of clear blue skies over the city. And then he was also part of developing the local clean air action plan in the city. And we know that since Beijing declared its war on pollution in 2013, it's reduced particulate pollution by more than 50%, which is a stunning success. And people have estimated that will have added 4 years to the life of the average Beijing citizen, which is really quite incredible. So, Mr. Liu Jin, tell us a little bit about what Beijing has done and what other cities can learn from this experience.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to thank UAE, the Environmental Department, and the Clean Air Fund for your invitation. And I also learned a lot from our other three speakers, learned a lot. And I think a lot of the people know that the Beijing and China made a significant progress on air quality improvement in the past 10 years, just like Sean said. Beijing achieved more than 66% of PM2.5 reductions in the past 10 years, from 90 to 30. I think a little bit better than New Delhi, and just the doctor said that. And at the national level, we achieved about 57% of PM2.5 reductions. I think the major policy is that we take it very seriously, since the public consider it a very high concern for the health impact. I think the doctor mentioned a lot of the health impact. And so the government pay more attention to that and released the National Ambient Air Quality Standard 10 years ago, and released a two-phase of the air quality action plan from 2013 to 2017 and 2018 to 2020. And I think our policies focused on the energy structure transition, as well as transportation and the industrial transition. A series of data shows that for the national level, for the past 10 years, the coal consumption almost keep the same, and which avoid about 400 million tons of the coal use. And for Beijing, the total coal consumption reduced by 97%, from more than 13 million tons to currently just 1 million tons. I think this is a big achievement for a big city which use a lot of the coal heating in the past, but currently we use natural gas or electricity. I think this is the most important experience we'll learn. So for any countries or cities, if you want to achieve significant air quality improvement, the energy transition from the fossil fuel to natural gas or even electricity or renewable, I think this is the biggest the policy. Meanwhile, we also focus on the industrial transition and the transportation transition. For take the transportation as an example, we eliminated, in Beijing, eliminated more than about 11 million old vehicles in the past 10 years. And the new EV electric vehicles increased from 4 million vehicles unit in 2019, which account about 50% of the total sales globally, to the 14 million vehicles in this year. So this is the biggest achievement, not only for the air quality improvement, to reduce the oil consumption, but also to accelerate the new round of economic development. I think this is a very big progress for us. So the environmental improvement can be achieved by the, accelerate the low carbon transition. This is what we learned. And we also learned that in order to protect human health, the residential energy use is very crucial, just like our speaker said that the indoors use for heating and for cooking is very important, since it directly related to our respiratory system. And data in China shows that the indoors, the residential energy use account only 7% of total energy consumption in China, but contribute to 30% of ambient air quality health impact and 70% of indoors health impact. So that's why we think in the past 10 years, we eliminate more than 35 million households, scattered coal use for winter heating, and try to switch it with the natural gas and electricity and renewable. I think this is a very big progress for us to improve not Beijing, the air quality, but also the Jingji region and the whole North China. I think this is what we learn. So this is, thank you so much.
Thank you, and it's clear that Beijing has made tremendous improvements, and they've, by really concentrating on the issue and putting a lot of time and energy and money into the problem. So much so that I invite all of the guests here to visit the pollution pods, which are just around the corner, and the pollution pods simulate the pollution experience in 3 different cities, Beijing, London, and New Delhi. Recent visitors have told us that when they go into the Beijing one, they say, "Oh, Beijing is actually much better than this now. You need to update the experience to make it more real." We've got a few minutes left, and I just wanted to. I will see whether there's any hands going up for questions in the audience. We've got one over there.
First of all, thank you for a great panel discussion. My question is for any of the guests, how do you think nuclear plays the role in accelerating the action of the air quality?
Thank you for this question. As I mentioned maybe in my earlier remarks, that we need to deal with the air quality portfolio and the air pollution in a very holistic approach, and that include the impact, as I mentioned, on all of the other sectors. In addition to that, in order to mitigate the air pollution and to put the right actions in place, we need to make sure that the actions are being coordinated through all of the sectors, and nuclear is one actually of the clean energy source in our energy mix, or in the energy mix in general. So as you may know, that UAE is now with the nuclear power plant is going to have the electricity generation, 25% of our electricity generation by nuclear plant will be by 2024. So far we had managed to, alhamdulillah, commission 3 reactors, and the 4th one will come in operation very soon. So by 2024, 25% of our electricity will be through nuclear energy, and that is a very source of a clean energy that we can use it in that mix. Did I address your point? Yeah, so is anyone wants to add?
Hi. I was very interested to hear about the impact of transportation on air quality. I was wondering if you have any experience in policy change that can improve that without making with the least barriers. Is it changing the fuel that's available? Is it changing to electric? What are the easiest ways to have an impact?
Thank you for that question. So when we transition from a fossil fuel-based transport system to an electricity-based transport system, the immediate benefit that comes is on the roads. However, it also then depends on that. So when you have electricity-based vehicles, they need to be charged. They use electricity. So then in the second round, it becomes important where your electricity is coming from. So you bring electric vehicles in the main city, but you have electricity being generated out of coal-based plants. So that air will continue, because air is a continuous shed. So we face this problem that we moved to some of the vehicles being electricity-based. However, many of the power plants still continue to be coal-based. So it will have to be a complete transition. So whether it is solid, liquid, or gas, all three will need to be changed. Similarly, when we move to gas-based system, again, the local pollution part is reduced. However, the methane emission continues to occur, and therefore the climate change component is not changed. So ultimately, it will have to be a total transition where you have no use of fossil fuel here, there, or there. If you just move it from here to there, you're only shifting the focus. You're not addressing the issue completely. Thank you.
So we've got time for one more question.
Yeah. Thank you. Suzanne Barterton, UK Clean Air Champion. We often find that city leaders in the UK tend to focus on transport policies, even though the dominant source of PM emissions is outside the transport sector in most areas. I just wondered what your experiences are of trying to take actions beyond transport, so industry, agriculture, etc., and also whether there are learnings from transport actions that are applicable to those other sectors.
So maybe, Lucien, would you want to pick that one up, and then I'd love to hear from that.
Okay. Yeah, I think, if we want to achieve the significant air quality improvement, we should focus on all of the different sectors together. It's systematic solutions. For example, in Beijing, in the past 10 years, in industrial sector, we have several measures. First, we try to eliminate outdated capacities like the steel, like cement, and we'll provide subsidies for there to, to phase out or allocate their, laborers, and how to renovate, make some renovations. And we also, for the agriculture sector, actually we have some measures try to reduce the ammonia emissions, which also the precursor of PM's contribution, and for the the emission from the rice, this kind of thing, and we also try to have the modern agriculture system, and I think we also to try to invest more than 1 million arcs of trying to plant trees to enlarge the environmental capacities, try to provide more PM2.5 sink source, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, I like to say that I think in different parts of the world, the causes of pollution differ. And for us, because we're not heavily industrialized, it's still transport that is our main issue, and that's why we're handling it. But I like what Dr. Kumar said about the source of the energy that you're using, so you can't just substitute when you're heading in another area, because the air comes right back to you. So we're thinking about that holistically. We're embarking on an afforestation drive. whilst we do that, planting trees within the cities as well as in rural communities, but most importantly, looking at how the major culprit, which for us is transportation, how we address that. And as I said, these are some of the policy issues to see how we can reduce the cars on the road, use more buses, use a more efficient commuter system, and a greener commuter system.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I think we're almost at the end now. So we'll do a very, very quick fire round now. Sort of 20 seconds from everybody. Your very, very top priority. What will you be doing? What will you be doing on air pollution when you get back to your desk? When you return from COP, what's the big thing that you'll be doing? So very quickly, in the same order that we had the speakers. So maybe start with you, Dr. Kumar.
Make people aware, awaken them to the serious danger which is facing them, and suggest and encourage them to take the actions themselves and make them so frightened about the reality of air pollution that they are willing to accept any and every action which the policymakers will take.
All right, so awareness driving action. Madam Al-Abdouli, next. What will you be doing when you get back to the office?
Well, we have to ensure that there is a proper replication of success stories among the different cities of similar configuration, as this will be considered a pragmatic way to tackle the air quality and the air portfolio. We need to increase awareness, as Dr. Arvind had said. We need to make sure or to understand that air pollution is not obeying to any political boundaries. So we have to work all hand in hand and together in actually reaching our targets of improving air quality and reaching to a better life for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that. Air pollution doesn't obey political boundaries. Madam Mawumia.
Well, we talk about health, as rightly so, but there's also the economic impact of air pollution and how it inhibits a lot of economic activities which we cannot afford, especially back in Africa, with the youngest population, and we're fast becoming the largest group of people in the world, really. So for me, what we need to highlight is how it is a development issue. And if we focus just on even health, then we're not quite getting the picture. So how do we, in our projections, in our development planning, think about it? And also importantly, how do we measure? Because I don't think we're very serious about measuring our air pollution. So we need to be measuring so that we can make policy decisions that influence it positively.
Indeed, fantastic, fantastic notion that this really is a development issue that needs to be taken more seriously. Mr. Lujin.
Yeah, I think three things we need to continue to work. First, we need to re-establish the health-based air quality standard system, since we already attend the current the IT1 WHO's guideline. We need to continue to work on to achieve the 25 microgram per meter to achieve more emission reduction for both climate and the criteria pollutants. The second, the synergistic action plan for GG and criteria pollutants is essential considering current China's dual carbon strategy. I think this is acceleration for us. The third thing is the renewable-based power system plus the electrification for the transportation and the building. I think this is the most important for us to reduce the emissions. Yeah.
Thank you very much. A three-point plan there, that's always good to have. I want to thank the panel and the audience for fascinating insights and perspectives on the challenge of air pollution in urban areas. Lots of work to be done by many stakeholders, but it's fantastic that we're pushing this issue up the agenda to have it addressed much more seriously by politicians and policymakers. So I'd like to ask the audience to give the panel a round of applause, and then thank you very much.